Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Wednesday morning. I'm back to being the greatest ads, and we have Marc with us. What's happening? Long time
Yeah,
no
good,
see.
good man. How are you? Yeah, I was in. While we were picking up 0 points, I had to take a little leave of absence. Uh, I'm not saying I'm a fair weather fan. I was just sitting in my room crying in a darkened room. But I'm in East London, not West London, and actually, finally, we got the points from just down around the corner from the London Stadium. So all good.
Oh, that's right. Did you make? Did you make it to the game or no?
No, I didn't. I could get. I the only way I could have got there into it is as an in the home end. I didn't have an away ticket,
Ah, got you.
so I was in the home end at Brentford because I've been a long term for a while. For a lot of years I've been going to Griffin Park, so I was able to get a ticket there, and that was a deeply unpleasant experience from a Liverpool perspective. So I thought, you know what, I don't want to sit through that again, and also I kind of do think that home sections are for home fans, and they don't want me there.
Yeah, I remember like you taking a picture, sneaking in there when the game was on over there. But okay, so at least we got the win finally. Cersei is here. Alan, good morning, gentlemen. Welcome along. Hit that thumbs up. Let's get the party started. But I mean, we do finally get to win. So I mean, we'll talk about the match today. Most of the show is going to be kind of like previewing what we might expect to see. But like, where does that put you? Do you just take it as like a because I see like extremes. People are like suddenly saying, "We're back, baby," or it's just like, "Oh, it's just West Ham. We're gonna go back to our losing ways." Where are you at with that?
I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm kind of happy that it's Sunderland today. Because the thing that I thought we'd missed, that we were lacking, is it felt like the way I would define it is it was like watching a superhero film, and you know when you watch some superhero films, there's like a trope where the superhero loses all his powers, and he has to Thor's walking around like a normal human being for the in this Thor movie, right? He doesn't have his hammer, he can't use the lightning, and it's like that's what watching Liverpool Football Club has been like in the last month, right? It's like we are Liverpool Football Club. We all look like Liverpool Football Club. We're wearing Liverpool Football Club shirts. We look like Liverpool Football Club players, but our power had gone. I kind of felt on Sunday we saw a bit of the return, like a return of our powers a little bit. In a way, I kind of feel having that kind of slightly battling performance. I do think you have to carry out this is a team that's been as equally as bad form as we have, or worse form than we have since the start of the season. So yes, it is West Ham. I think Sunderland. The reason why I think Sunderland might be a good test today is we're at home. Sunderland are a team that have been in incredible form, particularly when they're at their home.
Yeah.
And I think they part of what they do is they're very they're disciplined in defense and they're quick in attack, right? So I kind of want to see have our powers restored to a point where we can
Oh, okay. I thought when you said, you're glad it's Sunderland, it was more like a good matchup because, like, the team you described, I feel like is like the biggest fear, right? It's like a team that defends
yeah.
well can attack fast is probably our worst fear, which is why like Brentford was a struggle. I feel like any team like that, we struggle a lot more. So you like the fact that it's a better test, not because it's a more
Yeah.
suitable opponent.
I don't think today, if Liverpool lost today, I think that tracks with what our form's been for the last few weeks, rolling up that West Ham win as well, right? Because Sunderland are a team that are flying, they're confident, they're doing really well. They're a team we haven't played in a long time. This iteration of Sunderland, Liverpool haven't played, so there's a possibility that they cause us all sorts of problems. I also think if we win, it is we've beaten West Ham and Sunderland two in the bounce, no big deal. If we lose, I think there's a bit of this. This is Sunderland in red hot form. Like we've kind of lost to it. I kind of think coming off the back of an away wing at home, and if it is that our powers are being restored, then we know Anfield's going to be rocking tonight, right? It's the first game of the kind of Christmas season. It's it's at home under the lights and during the week. It's going to be if we start well, the crowd will jump in and it will, I don't want to say carry us home, but it's going to be an intimidating atmosphere for those Sunderland players. And yeah, they are scary, but we're Liverpool Football Club, right? We've won everything more times than anyone else has, apart from the Champions League and Real Madrid. Like, we don't need to be scared, right? I haven't been on for a few weeks. I think there's some really mitigating circumstances here. I think it's quite clear that that grief is the big issue here with this squad at this moment in time. I'm not of the opinion that if we lose to Sunderland and we lose, 2-3 more games in a row, that we've got to, start selling players and get rid of enough managers and stuff like that. I think that this is something that this group of people have to get through themselves, and they need to figure out a way of getting through it. And in the kind of, I love Liverpool Football Club. It's really important to me. Winning football games is really important to me. But I think there's something kind of slightly more important going on here. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We were talking about it. We had the Rival Bros with my brother yesterday, and we were talking about it a little bit there. As optimistic as I want to be, knowing the quality of players we have, part of me still says it's going to be an up and down season. Hopefully more up than down. And I think it's going to finish strong. And therefore, I feel like, we will be in the top 4 or 5 to go to the Champions League. But I think it will be a struggle. We will see a lot of, like, today could be one of those games where we're like, we're going, nope, we're not. We're going again, nope, we're not, kind of a thing. And, like, get 3 points here and there. But I think, but part of it is, and I do think, we overlook that grief part a lot. I was actually just watching like a podcast yesterday, and like a psychologist actually like talking about, grieving as a group being more difficult than grieving as like individuals and stuff. And while we overlook that for one, at the same time, I think a lot of it is lack of confidence too. Like, we're not getting the help from the powers that be at the same time. There are so many situations where it feels like if we get that goal early, or if something goes our way instead of the other way, like on a set piece and stuff, we would win a lot of these games. It just, even when you watch the West Ham game, I haven't seen relief like that after the second goal in the faces of freaking everyone. And you see the team leaning back, like it was like 70th minute or something. Normally, every team kind of leans back a little bit psychologically the last 5-10 minutes, right? It's like the ball keeps coming into the box and stuff. I mean, I feel like there's so much lack of confidence on that squad. They lean back in the 70th minutes. So while we say, there's so many factors for this possible up and down, the optimistic part of me says, if you can win some of the confidence back, some of your mojo back, you can win consistently as well. Not like a title race or anything like that. I think that's kind of like a pipe dream at best. But be the Liverpool again, that that you don't have to fear anybody, and this is the team, and kind of know what you're going to expect. When we talk with my brother, it has become in the sense that like he's a Manchester United fan, and like you don't know which team is going to show up right now at any given week. It feels like for both teams.
Yeah, like what I will say to that though is I don't think the problems at Liverpool are anywhere near what the problems are at Man United. I think that Man United.
Oh no, yeah,
like yeah. I also think, like, basically in the Premier League, you kind of don't know where you're going to end up finishing really until kind of like mid-January, end of January, because this is the first round of games. You coming into this, you're like, right, this is where they come really thick and fast during Christmas. If you can kind of, this is where Jurgen Klopp would keep us in the title race, or we'd know, it's going to be a struggle here, kind of thing, right? I look at this table right now, and all the way the narratives are starting to build, and I think it's because we've had so many years where it's either been Liverpool, Man City, mainly Man City, have kind of run away with it, and you kind of felt quite early on in the season that, right, last season, probably this time last year, a few of us were starting to think this kind of feels like we only need about 12 more wins from about this point, right? And we were gonna
yep,
like be quite comfortable in it. It was like that when we won the Premier League the first time, and it was like that. Liverpool and Man City were getting points in the 90s and the high 90s in like 2018, 2017, right? So we've almost had a kind of decade where a team has run away with it quite quickly. I don't think this season that's going to happen. I was watching Chelsea Arsenal, and that was not a particularly there were some moments of genius. It wasn't possibly a great game for the neutrals, but it was really tight, I thought. And I just felt like, someone said the Gooners have started to panic. I just feel they're going to drop a lot more points than Liverpool did last year, or Man City have done in recent years when they've won the league. I suspect coming out either, I looked at Arsenal were playing Brentford today, and I was like, the only reason why, if that was at Brentford, I'd say Brentford would be coming into this thinking we've got 3 points here today. We can get 3 points. I think they might turn up at the Emirates thinking, right, let's see what happens in the first 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I think the way Arsenal play football, they're always susceptible to dropping points. They're susceptible to drawing games, where the great Liverpool teams, the great Man City teams of the recent past that have just gone out to try and win, Arsenal don't do that. So I think the league itself is a lot more open. So I kind of feel, from our perspective, coming into today, it was like, if we win today, we might go on a run and win 2 or 3 more games at the back of it. And then you might think, all right, I'm not saying we can win the league, but I'm saying let's reassess at the end of, when we get into January. 3rd, 4th, 5th of January, that's when we need to be thinking, right, halfway through, what do we need to get to where? I don't think it's as bad as it feels in our minds sometimes. I also don't think as well, because I have seen that people say, right, that's it, Liverpool are going to lose, drop another point, and we're going to win. We're going to defend our title. I think that at this point that's quite unlikely. But if you look at the league. There's 9 points between us and Arsenal, and we've been on a terrible run.
True. I think part of that is, though, like you started with a crazy run in front. But I do agree with Kevin. When we talked about the title race yesterday, if it was the other way around, if City was top, Arsenal behind them, I would be a lot more comfortable saying City will run away with this. I think when somebody is behind them, I don't know, we're going to see how Arsenal deals with that pressure, because they are not... Because there's always that, until you win it the first time, there's always that, oh, here we go again. They're right behind us. They're going to catch up again and all that. I need the way, like my brother was saying, like how Arsenal look right now. Sometimes they do look kind of like dominance, constantly having the ball and stuff. But then the goals come from set pieces. I think this time last year, it was about the same thing. They kept scoring from the set pieces, kept getting the wins. And we're like, oh, it's going to be a long race. Well, at one point, those set piece goals dried up and they weren't creating enough. I guess the big difference is they are a better team than last year. Are they better to be able to get those points later on in the season where there were all draws and stuff like that? And I think City being right behind them makes it a lot more difficult for a team like Arsenal, who is not only, used to kind of coming up short, but is City chasing you as well, like right behind the way they come? I know the yesterday's game got dicey, but I kind of took that as it was 5-1, and they were like, okay, well, this one is over. And before you know it, it's like 5-4. It's the Premier League and stuff. But the way they're going as well. But I was reading, actually, I wanted to ask you that. People were I read an article where they were comparing our current run of poor form similar to what City went through last season when they introduced a bunch of new players and tried to change the system as well. Do you see the similarities, and when do we come out of the tunnel, you think?
I do see similarities with that. I thought actually dropping Salah was quite a, I say quite a big moment. I mean, that's the big story. Apart from the fact that we actually won the game, the second biggest thing was we won the game and Salah didn't play. Right? I think that was quite important. The team on Saturday looked a little bit more balanced. You can kind of start to see. I felt like Wirtz was kind of probably putting in the performance that we thought we were going to get him. Isak. I mean, it's that thing, isn't it? We all just know he just needs a goal. Let's see what happens today, right? And then you suddenly you take those two performances and you're like, right, Ekitike has been good already. and you're like, right, Frimpong's injured. Kirkes hasn't really done a huge amount, but he's part of a clean sheet on Sunday, and you're like, oh, maybe it's all starting to come together. I think just in a way, if they could go back and redo it, I think there might have just been too much change, right?
Yeah.
Too many players brought in, too many players leaving, and also this great big tragedy as well. In amongst it all, going back to the kind of Arsenal thing, I think there's been so much written about how they're trying to play a different way, and I think it's interesting what you said about them scoring lots of goals of set pieces, because I felt in that second half against Chelsea. So I've come onto a Liverpool show as a Liverpool fan. I've ended up talking about a game we weren't playing in. The thing I did notice, right, is I kind of felt like maybe the set piece in that second half, or even all through that game, I just don't think was as potent as it felt previously. I don't think that would cause as many problems. And I do think in the Premier League there's so much change all the time. Managers are so smart and so good at preparing sides, and there's so much analysis going into it. I think whatever you're doing to score goals at the beginning of the season, you've got to change the way you do it about this time of the season, because now there's enough data on how you're going to play that Chelsea were able to, I felt, quite easy snuff out Arsenal's threats at set pieces. And I kind of think, well, what happens again is you get to February, you get to end of January, February, and the players are knackered. You've got injuries setting in. Some players are going to be coming back from AFCON. And then you've got to kind of adapt again to the way they've played. Liverpool definitely slowed down from about February last year for a little bit and kind of cruised into that, into the title last year. We were lucky because I just don't think there was much pressure on us as well. I kind of think that as we come into this moment where we've got to change, where every team's changing, or it's got to change quite drastically from the way they first start the season, as we enter this kind of second third, I kind of think that's where we might come back into it. We've had, our new signings have had a little bit of time to bed in. We've gone through the incredible high of the way we started the campaign, and we'll go through the incredible low of losing a lot of games. I think one of the mistakes that Arne made, so when Jurgen used to bring players in, you just wouldn't see them for the first 6 weeks. I don't know if you remember that. You wouldn't see them till till the first or second international window. Arne dropped these guys straight in. A lot of that was out of necessity, right? Because so many players had left. There was so much churn in the squad. They just had to play. Also, I think it's really difficult to spend over £100 million on a player that they don't start straight away.
Probably, right? I mean, first of all, you spent the money with a plan in mind that he is going to play in a certain way and stuff. Right. And I know, like Kevin says, form is temporary, class is permanent. And I do agree that to a certain extent. I just don't think all our problems are form. Everything that's happening by now, I don't think it's all form. Part of it is form. I think a lot of it is confidence. And another big part of it is, I think we want to play a certain way. Like, you look at that West Ham game. If I could take that West Ham performance and say, hey, we're going to be able to do that again, I have zero confidence that we'll be able to duplicate that today, because the personnel is going to change a lot from the West Ham game. When I say a lot, there's going to be 3-4 players changing, at least I would think, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But those players are not going to be able to do the same things that the guys they're replacing from the West Ham game. So when you put Mo over there on the right wing, because I do expect him to start today, you are going to have to play slightly differently now, because you're not going to get I do expect a very energetic, a younger Mo, if you will, out there. But I mean, nobody on the team runs like Szoboszlai. So there's no way Mo is going to be able to do that. So some things are going to change. I just think when you rotate, you don't have the exact pieces.
Why do you expect Mo to come back?
Oh, I guarantee you Mo starts today.
Why is that?
First of all, I think you get as much mileage as you can before he goes to AFCON.
Yeah.
And I think, the whole way of, when you listen to Slots, he realizes this is a big deal. He realizes he had to make a call. but I think he also realizes that it's already a kind of a rocky changing room, if you will. You don't want to rock it more, and we know how vocal Mo can get. So I think right now the cards he's playing is, and that's what helps him. Hey, we're playing every freaking 3 days. So you're not going to be able to play every 3 days. You're not that guy anymore. I think it's a whole different conversation when you're like, well, you're not a starter anymore. I think right now you could just say, hey, you're not an every 3 day game. The Sunderland game suits you better. So you're starting that one. I think that's what we're going to see. I mean, mind you, he's leaving in 2 weeks. I think in 10 days, actually, right?
Yeah,
Brighton is the last game that he
yeah.
plays. So once that happens, I think we see what the future Liverpool is going to look like if we don't have the injuries, like if Bradley's back, Frimpong is back. We kind of see what we're envisioning for the future for the seasons coming up. But right now, I think you still have to put Salah in there. So he says, I don't think Salah is vocal anymore. I guarantee you, if Salah sits on the bench all day today, you will hear a lot from. You might not hear from Mo. You'll hear the tweet from his agent or some shit.
So I think that they'll go with as close to the 11 as they possibly can. Like I know they look at like a lot of data points to see who's near, who they think could be near injury and who needs rest.
Yeah.
The one player I worry about, just because, oh my gosh, he worked so hard, is Dominic Szoboszlai, right? Like, how much can he keep running? When Hungary didn't qualify for the World Cup the other day against Ireland, I was like kind of overjoyed for Dom, because I was like, oh, the man can sleep, he can rest, he can.
I don't think he was overjoyed, but yeah.
No, I know he wasn't, and I know. Look, he would have loved to play the World Cup, but he's still young. I think he'll have another crack at it. And all I could think about was it's a long flight to the US. There'll potentially be a lot of travel around the USA, Mexico, and Canada, and maybe it's best he just sits this World Cup out, right? I know that's purely selfish as a Liverpool fan. I get that, and I'm sorry, Dom. I do want you to achieve all your dreams. And look, I'd love to see Hungary win the World Cup, and maybe in Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. They could do that with a first round in in South America in 2020. Would it be 2030? Yeah, 2030. But yeah, I kind of I worry slightly about him. I think, but I think because I don't want to say they've got this. I was going to say stumbled, but I'm not sure that's quite right. They've got this winning 11. I just think try and stick with it as much as you can for today.
So who starts today, you think? Let's make the starting, but let's get your starting 11, because in some areas you don't have a lot of choices either, right? So you will have to start. I guess the big question is who started right back.
I think Gomez is, if he's fit and they can start 2 games in the bounce at this point, then I think he's there again. I think that back four has got to be what started against West Ham. I think that back four. I'm just looking at a team sheet from West Ham. Ryan and Szoboszlai and McAllister. You want that as much as possible, and then you got to kind of figure out what goes in front of them. I think like that's me. That's what I'd be looking to do. I think as little change as possible at the moment. Because I mean, Alexis McAllister, man, like he's one of our best performers last season, and then early doors this season, a few games ago, he just looks so off the pace. I mean, he's had to say there's nothing wrong with him, and physically and mentally he's absolutely fine, because there's been so much speculation. I think it's perfectly legit that players come in and out of form. I think world football has actually changed quite a lot, quite dramatically in the last kind of decade or so in terms of how much we get players to play and how little time they have to recover. As Liverpool fans, we've all heard Jurgen Klopp used to talk about this all the time. So I think we've just got to acknowledge that sometimes players like Alexis McAllister, undoubtedly he's one of the best players in the world. But he went out of form. I think I kind of, was of the opinion that you just got to kind of do what you need to do, whether it's either drop him in for kind of 60 minutes till he starts playing well, or introduce him in at half time or in the 50 or 60-minute mark to try and get him back into playing well. I think this idea that if you're Liverpool Football Club, if you play at Liverpool, you probably start for your nationals team. And international sides are playing all over the world. That's fine. I have no like issues with it. I don't want to be one of those English Premier League fans moaning about the best players will come to our league and then having to go back home and play games. I'm not doing that, but I think there's just the calendar of games is relentless. It doesn't, because sometimes I think we as fans kind of forget that they're playing every 3 days, which means right as soon as this game finishes, as soon as the game finishes West Ham on Sunday, they were probably on a bus or a plane, the train or a plane within 90 minutes of the match finishing, back to Liverpool, spend some time with family, and while they're in recovery, do a very light session on Monday, then do another light session yesterday, again recover, and then back at it today. And then it's like, so there's no time for tactical changes beyond what they're talking about on iPads or in meeting rooms and stuff like that. There's really no tactical work, and it's just recover. If you're someone like Alexis McAllister, where in the last 2 and a bit years, if you think about that moment when he won the World Cup, which was December 2022, all the way comes back, plays for Brighton. Okay, at Brighton they're at that point probably playing every 4 or 5 days. Then goes to Liverpool where he's just playing every 3 days, all the way through to where he's at now. You're like, yeah, fair enough. He's gone out of form. He gets, at least we didn't qualify for the Club World Cup. While I would have loved it for Liverpool to have played in that tournament, it gives our players a break. This is what we're, if we'd gone to the Club World Cup, Lord knows where we'd be at now.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, in some ways, right? Like in terms of tired legs, I don't know if form would be better. I don't know. I mean, here's the thing, though. I don't know how that would work with the tragedy over the summer. It's just like it's been such a odd summer that in many ways, from the tragedy, the Club World Cup, all the transfers, incomings, and stuff. And I think part of the reason, I mean, obviously McAllister missed a lot of the preseason, but I think as a midfielder, you're affected the most probably from the changes that happen in terms of the guys behind you giving the ball how you want it, where you want it, to the guys in front of you making the runs, where they go, the spacing and all that. And I think putting Wirtz in there changes the entire dynamic in terms of the midfield, the spacing, who wants the ball where. I felt like they were kind of like tripping over each other, especially Wirtz and McAllister. This last game was the first time that we saw McAllister drop back a lot more and then give that space for Wirtz to operate. So I'm assuming that's more of the future, but I don't know if that's another thing. Like, we don't know if it was just like a West Ham thing, that it is West Ham ultimately. So I do get people who say that. But having said that, it's, a lot of it is us not letting West Ham do what they want to do as well. I mean, honestly, if we have an advantage today, one of the advantages is what you just talked about is, these guys are used to, even if they don't like it and they're tired, more used to playing every 3 days compared to a team like Sunderland, who is not used to, and who's a lot more reliant on, especially when they come to Anfield, who's a lot more reliant on energy. And I mean, like defensive work rates, offensive work rates, that's going to be their bread and butter. So I think a team that's not used to playing every 3 days will probably struggle more for one. And if they do have to rotate, obviously this is where I feel like that everybody says, oh, January, like December, January is when like the teams go, like kind of like separate themselves. I think that's the main reason, because you're playing every 3 days. So the big boys who have a deeper squad are able to kind of maintain their game compared to a team where they don't have the bench depth, like Sunderland, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think the time of day, right? Like how many times Liverpool play a lot. We all know they play a lot at 12:30 UK time in the morning, because Jurgen Klopp used to love reminding us about how much he hated that. And we play a lot in the evening, right? We play a lot 8 p.m. kickoffs. I know this sounds mad, but it's, and I know this from when I used to play rugby as well. Like when you have different kickoff times, it totally changes your day, because when you're the athletes, they load their nutrition so that they're peaking at certain times, and also they sleep at certain times as well. Like they sleep a lot during the day. That's a massive part of their recovery. So it's like you've got to make sure that when it kicks off, you're not tired and your
Yeah.
body's not going, I'm about to go to sleep. And also that you've got enough of energy to kind of burn, which means you got to, kind of reverse it back almost and be like, right, what do I need to do to be available
Yeah.
to put in the best performance? Which I also think, if you go back and look at it, there's some players that really thrive scoring, score loads of goals at 8 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. kickoffs, right? And they're doing that is just getting them right at that moment. And you're right. I think Sunderland is back in the Premier League after a long time. They don't have a huge amount of players that have played at this level a lot. I'm not saying that they haven't got good players. They have got good players, and a lot of those players are going to stick around playing top, European top flights over the next few years, regardless of what happens with Sunderland. Not that I think they'll get relegated. I think they're probably going to stay.
I think they stocked up enough points to be good.
Yeah. And some of those players are going to go off to much bigger clubs, I think, in terms of clubs that will be looking to compete for.
I got you. Yeah.
For prizes for trophies is what I'm suggesting. But yeah, I think you're right. Getting into it, Liverpool's part of the mass recruitment over the weekend was not over the weekend, sorry, over the close season was because we were trying to get prepared to compete on all fronts for trophies and competing every 3 days, which is something that we've kind of, I'm much better at than most clubs, but we needed a few more players and a few more different types of players, which is, what means that today, traditionally, Liverpool drop points in the Premier League on midweek games. But our recruitment over the summer was to stop that happening. I don't know if it will, because obviously there's a lot of other things that we weren't expecting to happen since.
And that's the thing. It's
Kev
just
as
like
well.
right now, I don't know what we're going to get. Like going into today's game, I have zero expectation in terms of oh, we'll probably see this, we'll probably see that. Even in the lineup, I mean, we'll talk about that front three before we head out, because you said you didn't think Mo would start. I'm almost guaranteeing he's probably the first name on the sheets along with Van Dijk and Konate, because there's no replacement. But right back, ideally, when I heard Bradley might be able to go for Leeds, I was like, okay, maybe then we'll roll the dice with Joe today, knowing a Bradley is coming on, this weekend kind of a thing. But I do worry about, because if you lose Joe now, which, obviously that's been the problem with Gomez, then even if he misses a week or two, he's missing basically 4 or 5 games, and you don't have Frimpong coming on until next week. So I just feel but knowing Bradley, maybe he will roll the dice and say, can you give me 60? And then, put Jones or Soboslai over there for the last 30 minutes. I wouldn't mind seeing. I mean, in an ideal world, you do have a good game where you have a comfortable lead and you can throw Ramsey out there or something like that too. But I'm not too confident on that. I have no idea what kind of a Liverpool team we're going to see today. I'm not talking lineup in terms of performance, what we're going to see. But so a couple of questions. Who starts left back?
Kirkes.
Kirkes starts left back. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a lot better. I just didn't know if he would do it every 3 days.
Yeah, so I think with Kirk, I just don't think you see this a lot with players who get brought into not just Liverpool but other Premier League clubs from foreign leagues, where the media around the Premier League are way too quick, I think, to write them off. Sometimes you're like, yes, players don't end up playing in this league accidentally, right? If you spend money on them, you know that they are there's a kind of concept that football clubs just throw around kind of 30-40 million quid willy-nilly. They don't do that. They do a lot of research. The thing Kirkes has got going for him is that we all saw what he did for Bournemouth last year, so we know that there's a good player in there somewhere. I think there's a lot of issues with the way we've been losing games recently and the way we've been conceding goals. And inevitably, when you concede a goal, a defender or goalkeeper ends up looking like, ends up being the guy who takes the fall for it, right?
Mhm.
Quite often, the reason you concede goals start way up before the defender has the opportunity, but the defender or the goalkeeper is the last line of defense, or the person that lets them in, so they get all the flack of it. I think if you drop Kirkes now, I think it's quite difficult. Like the return for him is quite difficult. Well, I think almost what he needs is just a long run at it to kind of get himself into it. If you look at it, you're like, that defense. Virgil, I was reading something just before I came on where Jamie Carragher said Virgil's legs are gone. Apparently the stats don't back that up, and apparently he's actually running more than he's ever run, which is great. There's clearly a fault in the system somewhere, and whatever they're doing tactically, it's not been working. I think at this point, considering we'll just beat West Ham, then you've got to keep him in there. I think they need to force them just all the Gomez is, we know he's a kind of stopgap, as it were, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to be the long-term solution. But if you can, for me, just keep the four that were there, like against West Ham. We've got a clean sheet. A clean sheet's the most important thing. Goalkeepers like consistency. Allison, is coming off an injury. He's played 3-4 games now since he's come back.
Yeah, because he didn't play the Champions League either. So
yeah. So let him build up a bit of momentum and steam with the players in front of him and see what they've got. Right. That's like what I think. I don't think there'll be too many changes. I mean, last time I came on, I think I said I don't think there'll be too many changes. I think they changed half the team. So I mean, don't pay any money on what I'm saying.
So who are you playing in the front three then? Because you keep saying not a lot of changes. So what is okay? Let me ask it this way: make life easier for you. What is changing from the West Ham lineup?
See, I see a lot of people clamoring to drop Cody Gakpo, right? He seems to be like the
Gakpo. He's the Lauren of the front line.
Yeah, seem to be the magnets for all the hate. I'm unclear what Ekitike's fitness situation is at the moment as well. But what like, and I think against Sunderland you've got to play Verts. You've got to play Verts. You've got to play Isak.
Yes.
So I don't know whether Gakpo gets replaced by Ekitike, or every time I ever see Chiesa play, I'm excited by him. But I think part of that is because we only ever see him for like 20 minutes at the end.
I think not only that, I think he comes in like the people don't understand like how it's a different game that usually Chiesa comes into. So when they look at the game afterwards, they're like, "Oh, he only played 10 minutes, but he already had like 2 attempts on goal and stuff." That doesn't mean he's gonna have 18 attempts on goal if he played the entire 90. Usually when he comes in, the other team is already leaning back, like defending for their life, and we're going all attack mode. So he will have more attempts and all that. But, if he did some of the things he did in the beginning of the game, people would be a lot more frustrated. It's kind of like the American backup quarterback syndrome, I think, with Chiesa. We're like, well, let's see what he's got. And the moment he comes out there, we're going to be like, this is why he wasn't playing. And they're just going to send him back to the bench probably. I think, having said that, I do feel like he earns more minutes. But at the same time, we don't even know. We haven't been in a lot of situations where we're up by 2-0 in the 70th, 75th minutes and stuff, where you can say, he should probably give him a run for like 15 minutes over here. If nothing else, to get him minutes and get somebody else like some rest, like, subtract minutes from somebody else. But we have not been in that position. We're like chasing games, throwing every attacker out there. So I don't think that's why I feel it's Gakpo, Ekitike, and Mo up top. And my theory on this was I think he's playing more duos. And I think he realizes that you can't have Mo and Isak out there at the same time and expect to have any kind of pressure on their defense when they're trying to build. I don't think Sunderland will try to build from the back against us, mind you. I think they will go long because that's kind of like the recipe, and why mess with the recipe kind of a deal. But I do think that way you kind of have some running and movements. And I think Wirtz can play with either one. And in some ways, the way we play and we try to come through the middle with Wirtz at times, I almost feel like Ekitike is a better fit because of his movements and stuff. It's not like we're kind of taking it out to the wings. Like if you had like still Trent and Robo constantly crossing the ball in, then you'd be like, yes, throw Isak in the middle over there. He will finish all day. But that's not how we're playing. I almost feel like Ekitike is probably a bit more suitable right now for Wirtz. That's why I'm going with Mo, Ekitike, and Gakpo on left, probably due to lack of alternative. I guess the only other thing would be Ekitike and Isak together. Ekitike on the left. Would you be up for that?
Yeah, so Ekitike, Isak, and Wirtz. Is that what you're...
No, up for I'm putting Wirtz still in midfield because I do not
Yeah,
think
sorry, but you'd start with all three of them. So I kind of think actually Liverpool want to the people that run the playing side of Liverpool Football Club want Liverpool to have those three people in the team. I think it's interesting to see. I suspect. So I don't think Mo starts tonight, and I think we won't see him much till he gets back from AFCON. I wonder what happens if he has a really good AFCON. Like as in, if he's on fire at AFCON and he fires Egypt to even to the semi-finals or the finals, and pray be they win it, then I don't know how that changes the thinking, because clearly they've spent all this money on these three players with the view that they start them. They've also obviously conscious that Mo Salah is there because they know what they've got, and he's been such a huge figure for us. I think it's obvious that at some point as well, Salah will, not obvious at some point because he's a human, Salah will stop playing football at the level that where he scores, where we can realistically expect to score 20 plus goals a season in the Premier League. That moment is probably closer rather than later. And I wonder if West Ham was the beginning of the transition away from that very clear transition away from Mo and actually going to Florian Wirtz. This is your team, and your job is to unlock Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike to score as many goals as possible.
Which, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, Kevin says, I don't think we haven't started. We've seen them both in at the same time, but we haven't started. And I think that's when you go to during AFCON, that's what I mean. During AFCON, it's a lot easier for Slot to say, hey, this is how we're going to play, because there's more going to be than question. And you do maybe like a 4-4-2, and then, you put Szoboszlai on the right-hand side, you put Wirtz on the left-hand side, and he plays like a bit more inverted and stuff. So I think that's, and then you can shoot up Kirkes and Frimpong and Bradley down the wings, and maybe have Maka sit back a bit more, or Gravenberg sit back a bit more. So I think we're going to see it then, but until then, I think he has to kind of find a way to have Mo in there, just to not even, this team has enough distractions and everything going on. Last thing you need is like the constant Mo conversation, and knowing if you wait another 10 days, it's going to happen anyway. Why would I, why am I forcing the issue?
Yeah, I think there's a Mo conversation today, because when Saturday was the first time they've basically ever dropped him. If we keep winning and Mo's on the bench, I think that conversation very quickly becomes quiet, or comes to an end. I also, it's that thing we talked about. Mo's gone to AFCON for a while, so he won't actually be able to play anyway. And then by the time he comes back, we're right in the thick of playing games every 2-3 days again, right? So there'll be plenty of minutes to go around for people. We know there'll be injuries. We know that there'll be spaces available for him to play matches. So I'm not like, I wouldn't be worried that we couldn't. And the other thing is, I think with Mo Salah is, if we keep winning, I don't think he'll create a fuss. It's really like, as in publicly, right? I have no idea what goes on behind closed doors. But if we keep winning, I don't think he's the kind of player like Cristiano Ronaldo would, or I'm calling Ronaldo out there. I don't know why. I have no right.
He deserves it. Just call him out.
But I can think of other players When Zlatan was at Barcelona, for example, and Barcelona were winning, but he wasn't getting the minutes he thought he deserved, he just starts calling out Pep Guardiola, right? I don't think Mo's that kind of person. Mo also understands that Liverpool's not the kind of club that you can do that at, really. The fans won't take well to it, I don't think, if we're winning. If we're losing, I think that Mo's fully would do it. And also, I also think if we're losing, I think that Mo comes back to the team quite quickly.
True.
So
I mean,
I
don't agree to that though. I don't think Mo is that. I think Mo is that kind of player because when we talked about last year, right, we said Mo would want to come back to the Premier League because he has all these records to break. He's not breaking them off the bench. We said he cares about stats. We said he cares about, like records and stuff.
The thing I'll say about the contract situation with Mo, though, from my understanding and from people who I don't want to say close to the club or close to the Mo, but people who kind of claim at least to be in the know, and I think are in the know, the messaging was always that Mo was only ever actually going to sign, and everything else around it was the dance to make sure that he got the contract that he wanted to get, and it was all about having the 2 years and not the 1 year, right? When you look at the squad now that we've got, it makes more sense that Mo would have signed for 1 year, right? Because
for most sake, I think for us, it makes a lot better situation, right?
Yeah. From a Liverpool perspective, you can see why they were like, we only want you for 1 year, because I think they'll be thinking this is our transition season. This has clearly been marked as a transition season from the way.
But you can move Mo this summer, let's say. I mean, people are already moving him in January, which I think is ridiculous. But I think you move him, like if you get offers and he's not getting a lot of minutes, he's more lenient to. You can, I don't know, 50, 60, 70, whatever to Saudi Arabia, like the Saudi league, and actually get something for him, whereas you would not have gotten anything. But it'll be, I'm still predicting a really good Mo today, actually on the score sheets as well. But that's me being optimistic, more going with the
Look, the Mo Salah thing is that actually we're 1-0 down and Mo Salah comes on like this 58th minute and scores a hat trick and we win 3-1, and then he's totally undroppable. And if I was the coach and I had to have a conversation about, I'm sorry, Mo, you're not starting today, that's the conversation I'd have with him. I'd be like, look, whatever happens, if you get a chance today, you can never, obviously, if a player's on the bench, you can never guarantee that because your goalkeeper might get injured in the first minute. You can never guarantee that. But if you do get the chance, then make yourself undroppable. Get yourself that position. In my mind, Mo Salah is about 35, 36, but actually he's only 33, right? So I think it's fair to think he might have 2 or 3 more good seasons left in him. I think if they manage him, say he was to stay at Liverpool Football Club for the next 4 seasons, then you could probably get 15 goals a season out of him if you manage his minutes and manage his recovery. We know because all his teammates tell us that he's the player in the best physical shape in the team. You can see that when he takes his shirt off and he embarrasses every other man that's ever lived. He is one of the few athletes who could just walk straight onto the set of Baywatch and no one would
maybe the shortest life saving lifeguard, but that's a different story. Yeah. But I mean, here's the thing, and I think that Mo knows that too. Ronaldo plays in Saudi, and I think the position helps too. I think you can be a lazy center forward, you can be a lazy winger. So it's kind of like different, but yeah, I mean, Ronaldo can, whereas Mo is playing in the Premier League day in and day out. And we saw what happened when an old Ronaldo came to the Premier League, and they ran him out of town over there. But on our way out over here, let's end with some predictions. What do you have for the scoreline for today?
I reckon Liverpool 1-3-1. Liverpool win 3-1.
I'll go with it. I'll second that motion. The Timucin special 3-1. But enjoy the game, everybody. Hopefully, we'll enjoy the game watching it. Hopefully, we'll be talking about other win. The Balt crew will be back tomorrow night. Hopefully, they'll be talking about a win streak. But have a great day, everybody. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.